Welcome back, everybody. Had a couple of questions on why I haven't posted very many videos. And the reason is because I've been building stuff. So, if you look behind me there, what you're looking at is an SDN testbed. So what I'm going to take you guys through over the next couple of weeks is the series of steps that I've been taking to get all that stuff built. And we'll start with the hypervisors. So, without further ado, let's start building an SDN topology. So here we go, SDN topology build phase 1, and as I said, I'm going to take you guys through this from the ground up. Now first of all, there are lots and lots of sources for this. I'm not the first one that's done this. If you look around, there are lots of folks that have built this, but a lot of times it's instructions and there's lots of different distros and things like that, so I'll try and provide as many details about what I did, and where possible I'll give you some video as well. So my favorite sources going through this have been Brent Salisbury's blog over there at Network Static, of course Ubuntu and Ask Ubuntu. That's because I tried a bunch of different distros and right now I'm pretty happy with Ubuntu. And then there's openvswitch.org and of course all the stuff out there at Stack Exchange. Now as we go through and we hit various topics, you want to go to those sources and look for your keywords. So for example, if we're talking about hypervisors or KVM or something like that. Now as I said, I've tried lots of distros and techniques. I started off with Fedora and some Cent stuff. For my host, I'll probably go back to Cent because there are some very lightweight distros there. But right now I'm settling in on Ubuntu. And I've got two hypervisors that I'm working with, KVM, which is the open source hypervisor, and VMware's ESXi. And what we're going to do is build baremetal hypervisors, so this will not be desktop virtualization. And since our topology is SDN, or software defined networking, what we're going to need are some basic components there. So one is the controller, then one is a virtual switch. In this case we're going to use the standard open vSwitch, and then we're going to need some hosts to do some connectivity. And then the protocol that we use for all this is OpenFlow. Now as I said, there's lots and lots of instruction sites, and I'll try and document everything. But the first thing that we have to do is get the box that we're going to use to support virtualization. So I have some old HPs back there. So they're Intel Core 2, 2.6 gigahertz, 6 gig of RAM, and 256 gig of hard drive space. Now that means that they're not going to be awesome performers, but they'll do what I need them to do. But before I even install anything, what I probably ought to take care of is the virtualization support. Now what this means is that you actually have to go into the BIOS and turn on virtualization support if your BIOS doesn't have it enabled by default. But it's worth checking. So this is what I had to do in mine. Just go there and you see the Intel virtualization technology. I had to enable that. It was disabled by default. The first thing we're going to do in our topology is build ESXi, and really that just means that we're going to install this. Now it's what we call a baremetal hypervisor, which means that it is the operating system that runs on the machine. There are no other operating systems running. So for example, if I was doing desktop virtualization, I might run Windows 7 and then run something like VMware Workstation or VirtualBox as to support my guest operating systems. But that's not what we're going to do here. So ESXi 5.0 is going to be the only operating system running on the box, at least initially. Now that creates some other interesting problems, and we'll cover those here as we go along. I also did a USB install. So to get my ISOs on my USB, I used a tool called Rufus. And there's the link. And then of course you got to change your boot order to make sure you boot from USB. The install for ESXi is very straightforward. Once you're booting up on the USB, it really does a nice job of straight up installing. There's not a whole lot of options that you have to pick. And when you get there, you get a screen that looks something like this. One of the issues that comes up when you're building a hypervisor is, of course, you have to worry about your management network. Now, if you're just fooling around with ESXi and you just want to get some guest VMs running and things like that, you don't have to worry about this. But if you're actually going to do it the way it might be used in production, then what we want to do is set up a management network that's separate from the networks that we're going to use for our host VMs. And so what I've chosen is the VLAN 10 for my management VLAN, and then there you see the IP address that I've used for this particular ESX box. Now I'll describe why I chose those, and then how we set up and how we worry about management next time. So it's worth spending some time on, but we'll do that next time. In the meantime, think about what you might do with your host networks. Typically, we do not put hosts or guests on the same network as the management interface. We want to keep that sort of traffic separate, and so give some thought to how you might want to manage these. I'll see you next time, and until that time, may all your packets reach their destinations.